It's not okay for the Conservative Party to endorse non-conservative candidates. And that's how we're doing it, is by this petitioning season. Now, how does a candidate get onto the ballot? Maybe you know this, but I really didn't. I had to be taught this. Who decides who gets on the ballot? Well, the party bosses decide who gets on the ballot. The Republican Party boss, the Conservative Party boss, the Independence Party, Independence Party bosses. They decide who gets on the ballot. Okay, they give their endorsements. The Republicans and the Democrats have official parties, so they have conventions. I was at the GOP New York State Convention. I was down there with about 200 Tea Party patriots from Suffolk County 912 and Conservative Society for Action. Anybody catch that on the news? Okay, well, we rallied outside, and then we got passes to go in. We were on the floor. It was an experience of a lifetime. I've always wanted, I would watch the races on TV, the conventions, go, how do you get there? How do you get to be there, you know, with all their signs, and I, the so-and-so from the state of New York, do hereby give my such and such votes. Well, I was there on Tuesday, I think we were there, rallying for Gary Bernstein. That was an amazing thing, and I saw what was going on there. He came in with a weighted vote. After the second vote, he took 62% of that vote. That was exciting. Gary is a Tea Party patriot. The Tea Partier before he became a candidate. He is a designated nominee Republican because he is primary now against Jay Townsend. I came back the next day. I discovered that my pass was good for 3 days. I said, well, I'm going to go back. I'm going to see the governor, goings on there. And I knew when I was driving there that I was probably going to be forced to take a stand that day. I had been watching Mr. Palladino, and I have been watching Mr. Lanzio, and I just had a sense that when I walked in there, and to tell you the truth, there was that whole Tea Party group that was with me the day before with Gary Bernstein were all on the other side of the room the next day for Steve Levy. So when I came in, I just had a sense I was going to have to take a stand, and sure enough I did. When I walked in and I saw all the rah-rahing, and I said to the guys there, well, we had fun yesterday, but I don't know where I'm going to be today, but I can't be here with you. Sat down in the center with Lazio's group. I sat there and I looked over to the other side and I saw Mr. Palladino. There was nobody over there but his family, his campaign manager, and just a few people with signs. He had young people walking around giving signs. I took a sticker, I slapped it on, I sat there and I said to the lady that was with me, there were two of us, I can't sit here. I have to go over there. And I knew that I had to make a decision that day for him and for the grassroots. And that's what I did. So we went over there, two of us, for Palladino, and they tried to shut him out that day. You're talking about the corruption. His campaign manager, Mike Caputo, came up to me. I said, what's going on? He said they're trying to shut Carl out. Carl's a legitimate Republican candidate. So he did a gutsy thing. He got somebody from his area to nominate him immediately onto a committee. And then he marched up boldly to the podium there and nominated himself for governor. And somebody on the floor seconded it, and he gave a wonderful speech about his platform. I was personally hooked that day because to me that was guts, it was brawn, and he was a legitimate candidate, and he had a platform and he had a voice. So that's what happened with me at the New York State GOP. It was amazing, but I got to see the workings of the corruption there and how they really do shut these people out because there was deals going on. With Lazio, tried to get the Wilson Bakula, they wouldn't give it to him. The chairman wanted it, Cox on board with Lazio, the committee people there, no way. I'll never forget it. Hell no, he's not getting a Republican endorsement today, was the answer for Steve Levy, and so he was out that day. So Carl turned around and he said, well, I will petition my way onto the Republican primary. And so we all went out and we collected 28,000 signatures again. He is going to primary, like I said. That is an awesome thing for the grassroots in this state. And Levy's gone. So we have two in the primary. Now, why did Carl have to create the taxpayer line? Well, no New York State governor candidate has won a race on a single line. It hasn't happened. So we could do all of this work and Carl could actually win the primary. It could happen. He's pulling up. and his momentum is gaining. And what if he did that and he didn't have any other place to go? He doesn't have the conservative. He courted them. He's, I believe, a true conservative candidate. He courted the conservative party office. They wouldn't give it to him. They gave it to Lazio. Okay, the Independence Party went for Cuomo. So that leaves somebody like Carl disenfranchised. He can't, no, he could maybe take the primary, but after that he's done for. So he had to create a second line. The second line is the Taxpayers Party line, and it was named that supposedly the party on that taxpayer party is what's throwing a lot of people. Is it another party? And the answer that I got was that for whatever reason, when they filled out the legal forms, it had to say Taxpayer Party. But I call it the Taxpayer Party line, okay, for right now, because it isn't a party right now. It hasn't appeared on a ballot, and it hasn't received 50,000 votes. That's going to happen this November. We are petitioning right now signatures. We're trying to collect 40,000 signatures, again, all of us out beating the streets again, for that second line, so that if Carl wins the primary, and it is conceivable, people, a lot of you raised your hand and said you thought he would take it. If you want him to be your next governor and win that, he has to have another place to run, and that's why the taxpayer line. So, when it will appear that way on the ballot, and the taxpayer line is a line, though, for us, and I want to be clear about that. How do you know what that line stands for? You look at the person who's running at the top of the ticket of that line. So if you want to know what the taxpayer's line is and what it stands for, you look at what this guy stands for. And you find out where he is on the issues, and if you can line up for him, because he's the one that's leading that taxpayer party. There are 4 others on that taxpayer petition, okay? But there are many other candidates, and I've talked to 2 or 3 of them this week that want to jump on board that taxpayer line. They have to go now and generate their own petition, and I don't have a petition with me. But they can still jump on that line. They have to get enough signatures. They have to get grassroots to go out, and there are people to go out and get signatures for them.
But petitions are on the registration.
Right, okay. But there are other candidates, not just Palladino and Bernstein is on that and these others. There's other, I think Tony was trying. It's very hard. This is hard work, guys. It's really hard work, and none of us have ever done anything like this. And then we get down to where they're going to be challenged, and I know Carl's are going to be challenged, just so all of these candidates. But the taxpayer line, if you want to know really where its values are, you're going to look at Carl and you're going to look at some of those other candidates. He's a true conservative candidate. What about the tax line replacing the conservative line? Now, this is another thing. People are concerned, and you know who's concerned is the Conservative Party. The Conservative Party looks at the Tea Party. What you just said, don't want their candidates to have anything to do with the Tea Party. Why? Because we are a force to be reckoned with, and we're not stopping. We're growing, and I tell people all the time, I get challenged. I've been challenged recently by the conservative chairman for Sullivan County. And I said, you're just looking at me showing up at this little town hall talking, and 4 or 5 of my other friends. You don't see the hundreds of thousands of Tea Party activists behind the scenes, networked online, and through other places, and all through the state. And that's really where the power is. And they don't see it, so I don't think they know what's coming. They really don't, I think, understand the magnitude of it. But we do have to keep working, building, building, building. Many believe the Conservative Party will not be replaced by the Taxpayer Party. Some people are afraid it will be. Of course, the Conservatives are afraid it will be. But a lot don't believe that it will be replaced by the Tea Party line. I don't know that it will be anytime soon, because I think these things take time. Okay, but the Conservative Party is running scared. Now, I would like to note that Rick Lazio states that he will run on the conservative line regardless if he wins the Republican Party. So he's not backing down. He's going to continue on that line. This conflict with the conservatives, with the website, is a conflict with him and the party. Okay. So what about splitting the ticket? And what Carl has done is a bold step. Now, Carl, I say, is not splitting the ticket. Who's splitting the ticket would be Rick Lazio if he refused to step aside, okay, and if Carl should win the primary and he continued to run. then he's splitting the ticket. So really, what were you saying? The conservative, it's really the conservative line that's at issue here, or that's in trouble with the splitting of the ticket. So those of you that are concerned if Carl stays on the tax line, will he steal votes and let Cuomo win? I had to ask myself that question, and I had to ask myself, do I believe that Rick Lancio can take Cuomo in the general election? And I had to tell myself, no, I don't think he can. And so I'm a principled person because I'm a Tea Party activist. And I had to say, when I look at Lancio and Palladino, I have to go on my principles. And that's what this movement is about. I think it's a gutsy thing what Carl has done. I think he's done it for us. I think he's the only one that's standing for pro-life, standing for the Second Amendment, is standing for term limits, is standing for the things the Conservative Party said they were standing for. They tried to shut him out. He's making a way. And we're helping him do that and getting on. I would just like you to, I would like my husband to show you the ballot. So go ahead. We have a ballot here real quick, and I'll just show you where we'll be on this ballot.
Now you know what my job is. Call me Evil Boy.
Okay, this will not, you have the main parties up here, Democrat, Republicans. Used to be Republican at the top, but the Democrats have taken over in this state. It really doesn't matter, I've been told, where these things pass these two parties line up. The average voter goes in and just checks what they want. The taxpayer party line, I want to clarify, right now it's just a line. It's nothing. It has no teeth. It has no power. It won't have any teeth or power unless we get 50,000 votes on it in November 2nd, yes. Then it will become a party, but no different than any of these others right here. So go ahead.
How many official parties are there in the state of New York? Anybody know that? Correct. There's 5 official parties in the state of New York. There is the Democrat, the Republican, the Independent, the Conservative, and the Working Family. Those are the only official parties in the state of New York. They are official parties because in the last governor's election, one of their candidates, or their candidate on the ballot, got 50,000 votes. That's what makes an official party in the state of New York. A lot of people don't realize, but the Conservative Party in New York is the Conservative New York Party. It is not in any other state in the United States. There are 3 conservative parties in the United States, and the Conservative Party in New York is not affiliated with any other national conservative organization. There are 5 people, I believe, that started the Conservative Party in New York in 1962. It's the exact same thing that we're trying to do right now, start a taxpayer line. But below this is the presidential ballot for last year. Below this, working families, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other lines. They're the socialist workers, the socialism and liberation, the green, the libertarian, and the populist. Those are just lines. Those candidates got enough signatures to get on the ballot in that election. But they didn't get 50,000 votes, so they're not official parties in the state of New York. So the taxpayer party that we're getting people to give us signatures for to try to get these guys on the ballot is simply going to appear on the ballot as a line. If they get the votes, then they'll become an official party in the state of New York. And we're trying to get them to put candidates up that will be a reckoning force that are true conservative candidates, and that's the intent of this. The reality is, for Tea Party patriots, is that if we all get behind this taxpayer line and this taxpayer candidate, and Carl Palladino, the governor candidate, has to get the 50,000 votes. If Carl Palladino gets those 50,000 votes in this election in November on the taxpayer line, he becomes official party in the state of New York. And the next election cycle, all those Republican and Democratic candidates that won on that line are going to have to go to Carl Palladino or his people and ask them to allow them to be on that line. And they're going to be able to vet those candidates and find out, are they true conservatives?